Hi everyone, today we are going to study the logical design of IoT. In the logical design, we will see various communication models, various APIs or the application programming interfaces and the functional blocks. So, basically the logical design of the Internet of Things or IoT can be divided into three different categories. The first category is that of the IoT functional blocks, the second category is that of the IoT communication models, and the third category is of the IoT communication APIs. In today's video, we are going to study the IoT functional blocks, and in the next two upcoming videos we will study the IoT communication models and the IoT communication APIs respectively. So, today we will study the IoT functional blocks. So, the IoT functional blocks, what are these? An IoT or Internet of Things system consists of a number of functional blocks, and these functional blocks include things like the devices, the services that are provided, the communication that is provided, the security that is provided to use the IoT enabled devices, and an application that provides the capability for sensing, actuation, identification, communication and management. So, these all things come under the IoT functional blocks. Now, sensors are a very important part of any IoT device. Sensors and actuators play a very important role in any IoT device. So, they work together, that means they work in tandem, but they are essentially opposite devices. Though they work in tandem, but they are opposite devices. That means a sensor monitors the conditions and signals when changes in the outside environment occur. So, whatever conditions and signals are as per the changes in the outside environment, those are monitored or sensed by the sensors, and an actuator receives a signal and performs an action. After performing receiving a signal, the actuator would perform the action. Sensors are basically placed at the input output points in the system, while actuators are placed at the output points. So, sensors are placed at the input points where they would be sensing any phenomena, any condition, and actuators are placed at the output points to take an action as per the signal received. Sensors we are using on a daily basis in various devices or things that we use. For example, a digital thermometer uses a sensor. When you place the thermometer near your body, the sensor inside the digital thermometer senses the temperature of your body and converts it into a form that is understandable by you. You understand the temperature in numbers, so it translates those environmental conditions into a form that is understandable, which is numbers for you. So, when you read the number on the thermometer, you get to know what your temperature is. Sensors are being used on in various places nowadays. For example, when you enter a mall or a hospital and a glass door automatically opens the moment you step near it, those doors are also using sensors which are sensing some outside stimuli. That means the moment you step, that is a stimuli for the sensors, and the gates automatically open. So, these are all examples of sensors being used in day-to-day life scenarios. Now, as I said, sensors are placed at input points. Why at input points in an IoT device? Because they are monitoring or sensing certain environmental conditions and signals, and whenever changes occurs in those signals, they convert it into a form that is understandable by the human beings. And actuators basically perform an action based on the signal received. So, for that reason, actuators are placed at the output points. Now, let us understand the IoT functional blocks through a diagram. So, basically there are applications, there are management, there is services, there is communication, there is security, and there is the actual device which will be helping us to do IoT. because everything is embedded inside that device, be it the artificial intelligence, be it the actuators or the sensors, they are embedded in the device. So, device, the applications, the services, the communication, the security and the management, these all come under the IoT functional blocks. These functional blocks consist of devices that provide monitoring control functions, handle communication between host and server, manage the transfer of data, secure the system using authentication and other functions, and interface to control and monitor various terms. So, when we talk of these functional blocks and all these entities in the functional blocks, so what are these entities doing in a functional block? They are basically providing the monitoring control. You have to monitor certain conditions, certain aspects using an IoT device. So, that monitoring control is provided using the devices. Then communication needs to be handled between the host and the server. Unless there is a communication between the host and the server, what is the point of sensing things and processing data unless you communicate it? So, communication is very important between the host and the server. So, these devices also handle communication between the host and the server. Then they manage the transfer of data. Obviously, communication means transferring the data or giving some commands. So, apart from giving commands, managing the transfer of data also comes under the communication. So, you have to manage the transfer of that data. Secure the system using authentication. When the data is being transferred or communicated, it is important to ensure that no third party intruder hacks the data. So, that means you have to secure the system using some authentication mechanism and other functions, and also provide an interface to control and monitor various terms. There should be an interface using which it would be possible to control and monitor various terms related to the IoT device. Now, when we talk of this entity, that is the application, what is an application in an IoT functional block? It is an interface that provides a control system that is used by the user to view the status of system and analyze it. So, a user who is using an IoT device needs to view the status of the system and analyze it accordingly. So, application is providing that interface, which is basically a control system for the user, using which the user can view the status of the system and also analyze the system. Then comes another entity, that is the management entity. Now, management, this functional block provides various functions that are used to manage an IoT system. So, as a user, you need to manage the IoT system in various ways. So, this management functional block helps you to manage the IoT system. Then comes the third functional block, that is your services. So, when we talk of this particular functional block, that is the services, this functional block is providing some services. What kind of services? Like monitoring and controlling a device. We need to monitor and control the devices on a continuous basis. So, this service of providing monitoring and controlling of a particular device is provided by the services functional block, and then publishing and deleting the data and restoring the system, this service is also provided by the service functional block. That is, you need to publish the data at times, then you need to delete the data also at the times, you need to restore the system after some fault occurs. So, all these functionalities are provided by the service functional block. Then is your communication functional block. So, when we talk of the communication functional block, this block is basically handling the communication between the client and the cloud based server. As I said, the server in the IoT is a cloud based server. So, when the communication is taking place between the client and the server, it is the cloud based server, and basically for sending and receiving the data, of course using some protocols, this functionality is provided by the communication block. Then comes the security block. So, this security block is used to secure an IoT system using some functions like authorization. data security, authentication and two-step verification, etc. When such an important and vital information is being sensed and communicated using IoT devices, you need to secure that information also. So, it is this functionality is provided by the security functional block. How does it provide security to the IoT system? Using some functions like authorization. What is authorization? It is determining the access rights of the user, whether you are authorized to just write the data, or whether you are authorized to just read the data, or whether you are authorized to both read and write the data. So, accordingly you will be granted access to the data as per the authorization that is provided to a particular user. Then data security, making sure that the data is properly encrypted and decrypted while being communicated so that it cannot be hacked easily. Then authentication. Authentication means verifying the identity of a user, whether or not that person is authentic user or not. So, for authenticity, usually a valid username and password is provided, using which when you log in, that means you are an authentic user. Two-step verification is also used to provide a better security. Now, this two-step verification is basically a process that involves two authentication methods. That means authentication in two steps, which is performed one after the other. So, you find the authenticity of the user in one step. When the one step is cleared, then you find the authenticity in the other step also. So, authenticity here, authentication methods are basically two-step methods here, wherein in two steps you identify the authenticity of the, or you verify the authenticity of the user, which is performed one after the other to verify that someone requesting the access is who or what they are declared to be. As an example of two-step verification, you can see Google's two-step verification, which involves the usual password method, something that the users know, and then a code is also sent to the user's device, something the user has. So, it is a kind of two-step authentication. This usually Google asks for when you try to log in from some other device. So, first of all it will ask for your password, which you know, then it will send a code to your verified mobile number or mail, and when using that code you enter that code in the enter that code. So, Google verifies you as an authentic user using the two-step method, wherein in the first step you entered your password, and in the second step you entered some PIN or code which was sent by Google to your verified phone number or email. So, this is an example of a two-step verification. So, using all these techniques, the IoT system ensures that these systems are safe enough and secure enough, and this functionality is provided by the IoT security functional block. Now, next is your device functional block. So, when we talk of the device functional block, what are these functional blocks? These are basically devices that are used to provide sensing and monitoring control functions that collect data from the outer environment. So, basically when we want to sense and monitor any environmental stimuli or environmental conditions, then the devices are used. So, these devices are basically used to provide sensing and monitoring. How? Because sensors are embedded in these devices. These are devices which are embedded with sensors, and then with the help of these sensors, these devices can sense and monitor the environmental conditions, and these sensors collect data from the outer environment. That is why they are placed at the input points of the devices, so that from there they can collect the environmental conditions, sense and collect the environmental conditions. So, these are your IoT functional blocks. In the next video, we are going to study your IoT communication models.